Welcome back to page 39a. Yerushalmi Peah Daf. Now, we spoke about yesterday whether you could be a shliach, someone who's fitting to give or fitting to take. Now, let me just slightly, we're going to ask a question, and that will actually elaborate what that means. Someone who can give or someone who can take. So we'll go through this, and you'll see it will come out to explain it in better detail. What does that mean, the argument? So, Masechet Pliga, the following Mishnah argues on Manda Omar, the one who says, Haroy Lital Zeicha. The one who can take can be Zeicha for others. Let's see. Now we learned as follows. His kabel gets zeri ishti. Imagine a husband tells a shliach, you receive the get from my wife. Aholech gets zeri ishti. He'll take the get to my wife. Now at that point, the shliach is acting on behalf of the husband. If while the shliach is going, the husband changes his mind, if the husband wants to change his mind while the shliach is going, yazir, he can change his mind. If the get's not yet reached the woman, she is not yet divorced, he can change his mind. Now the continuation there says, if a woman gets a shliach to receive the get, right, then, and the shliach receives the get from the husband, and that's a shliach for Kabbalah, then that's it. Once the shliach has received it for the wife, she is divorced, and the husband can't change his mind now, it's too late. Okay? So what happens is, now, imagine you have one person who's doing both. The husband said, take this, and the wife tells this person, receive for me. So the same person now can actually work for both. If the husband told that shliach, in a second. So if a husband told, when I finish the paragraph, so if a husband told that shliach that the woman appoints a shliach Kabbalah, I don't want you to receive the get for her, I want you to go and take it, then if he wants to go back, he can go back. She's not divorced until she receives it. Now what do we see? The same shliach could be a shliach for the husband to take it, and a shliach for the woman to receive it. Either one or the other. And now that shliach, who the woman approves to be the shliach, if the husband says, I don't want that, so again, he tells him, take it, then it's a shliach for the husband. Now this shliach, if he's a man, he can't really receive a get for himself, because men don't receive gets. So how can he be a shliach to receive it for the woman? If he's a woman, then she's not fitting to give the get. So how can he be shliach to the husband to go and take it? What do you see? That a man is fitting to give the get to the wife, and he's a shliach. He's also fitting to be a shliach to receive the get for another woman. And that's like the one who says, whoever's fitting to give, as long as you can give it, you can be zoich for others, even though you can't take it yourself. Okay? And that is a question on the one who says that you have to be fitting to take to be zoich for others. Because here he's fitting to give, and even though he's not fitting to take, and he can still be a shliach.
This is right back to what we said yesterday regarding Peah.
That's right. So this is Sherry Zil Nishmas, Eliezer, Akiva, Ben, Simcha, Dovid, whose yahrzeit is this coming Masechet. So now what are we talking about? So my answers, we're talking about whether shliach is a man. Now a man is fitting to take a get. Why? Who can he receive a get from? Shekain Roy Kabel get bitai. A father can receive a get of his young daughter, and therefore he can be a shliach to receive a get for another woman. Now, we can ask another question on the one who says, Haroy Lital Zeicha. Well, and we've also learned in Gittin, if you tell the shliach 10 get zel ishti, shtashich zel after, give this get to my wife, shtashich is the servant, Eved Kanani, it's machlekes tanoim, if an Eved is Zeicha in the shtashich by a shliach receiving it, when he receives it, the Eved doesn't know anything about it, the Eved never appointed him as a shliach, and it's mashma there, if an Eved appoints a shliach, to receive a shtar shichru, he can receive it for the Eved, even though the shliach is a free man, and he can't receive a shtar shichru for himself. And he's not fitting really to give, he's fitting to give, but he's not fitting to take, because he can't receive a shtar shichru for himself. So the Gemara answers, is talking about a case where he's an Eved Kanani, that the shliach himself is an Eved Kanani. Shekenu roy lekam shtar shichru, he can receive it himself, therefore he's fitting to take for the other one as well. You hear that? Because he could receive it himself. But then the Gemara asks, now, the Mishnah there says about a shliach, give a get to the wife. And the husband, the get comes to the woman, and she's divorced. But if the shliach is an Eved Kanani, How can he be a shliach to take a get for a woman? Evet Kanani, the Kedushin is not Kedushin. He's not in the Torah of Gittin and Kedushin. How can he be a shliach for that? So my answer is possible understood. You want to explain the Mishnah according to the various sides. So it's not one person who said everything. It's not one person who said to shliach, take the get for the wife and a shtar shikra for the servant. No, we're not about one person. It's two separate situations. The ratio is where one person sends a get to the wife through a ben chayrin, and the sefer is where a person sends a shtar shikra to an eved through another eved. Yeah, so we have to break it up into two cases. Okay. But another question against the one who says a roy litol zachar, right? The one who just you have to be able to take it to acquire it. Amas nisa pliga. The following Mishnah argues Amanda Ama Haroi Litol. It should be Litol Zaycha. The Tanina Tama. Now, let's look at this now. Masechet. You remember the story of Rabbi Gamliel was on a boat. And there were other Tanoim there. And they gave him, he had to give all the maestras. They were on a boat. The maestras wasn't with them. He gave the maestras, which he'd left at home. And he gave it to people to be entitled to it through the Chachamim who were with him on the boat. To do the mitzvah of giving all the maestras. And he says there, 1/10 of the fruit I'm going to measure when I reach home is Masa Ani. And Nasan Akiva ben Yosef is given to Rabbi Akiva, he was in the boat. He can acquire it for the poor. And the place where the master is also hired out to Rabbi Akiva. He gives him a bit of money as well, and through that he will entitle all the Aniyim to take the Masa Ani as a Kinyan Chatzah in his courtyard. Now, Rabbi Akiva, Roy Hulita, could Rabbi Akiva take Masa Ani himself? He was very rich. How could he couldn't take Masa Ani himself? And yet he's acquiring it for everyone else. Now, if you're going to tell me you can't get someone else's money unless you're fitting to take it yourself, how is Rabbi Akiva acquiring the Masa for all the poor? So the Gemara answers, you know what? This was before Rabbi Akiva was rich. He was still poor. Therefore, he could take it himself as well. I feel it you could say he was rich. He was the trustee of the charity, right? But Yada Panas ki Yada Ani, and that's considered like the hand of the poor man, as if the Aniyim themselves merit the Maser.
Why don't we say that we set up on top?
That what?
That the fact that he can give it.
Well, this is a question against the one. This is a proof against the one you see here, that it sounds like he couldn't have it and yet he could give it. So then we said, well, you think he was rich? No, maybe he was poor. Or because he's a trustee, and that's considered the same as.
So it's not because he can give it.
No, it's because he is the Ani. He is the representative of the Ani. And it's as if the Aniyim themselves are acquiring it. And it's not a case that he's taking it for himself. He's not taking it for himself at all. Now we're going to bring another raya, according to the ones who say one who can acquire, from Yerushalmi Levi. Let's see. Milsid Yerushalmi Levi Amra, from his words, we see a raya little zacha. If you're able to take, you can acquire for others. Yerushalmi Levi Amra, now he said about the machlokes from Les and the Chachamim, if a balabais is separated or collected pair for an ani, does he get it? But balabais ashir machlokes, he said, look, if the balabais is rich, there's an argument. But balabais ani, if he's poor himself and he picks it up for another ani, then mitzah shrai little, because he can take peah himself. At least maybe not in this field, but in other fields. Therefore, zachar, he can acquire it for another ani. So you see, according to the Chachamim, the halacha is like that. A balabais ani, who's fitting to take peah for himself, can also acquire it for others. Whereas if he's rich, but he's not fitting to take, he can't acquire. And from here you see, one who's fitting to take can acquire. Not that he's fitting to give, he's got to be fitting to take. Okay? He's not, otherwise, a rich man, he's not in the Torah of Zechir B'Peah. We don't say Shluch Shaladim Kamaisei unless he's at the Torah of that Indian that he's been sent for. Okay. Now, Aleket B'Ashikha, a new piece now. Aleket B'Ashikha and Peah of a guy is Chai B'Maseh unless it's Hefka. Rav Yirmiyah, Rav Chizki B'Shem Rav Yochanan, Command like the one who holds Yesh Kinyan, the guy V'Eretz Yisrael, the Patre Min HaMaisros. That means that a guy who acquires land in Eretz Yisrael, he can remove the Kedusha, and his produce is potter from Maestros Min HaTorah. It's got a Chi of Maestros rabbinically, and since he's got a Kinyan in Eretz Yisrael, if he's mafkir everything, which he leaves to the poor from his grain, he's mafkir everything, he's hefka, and therefore it's potter from Maestros. But Commander Amma ain't Kinyan the guy Eretz Yisrael, the potter of Maestros. According to the one who says a guy has no right to acquire in order to exempt Maestros in Eretz Yisrael, and there's a Chi of Maestros Min HaTorah, then Afida of Kira Chayav, even if he makes a Hefka, there is still an obligation to separate the Maestros. He has no Kinyan in Eretz Yisrael, that the Hefka will not exempt The maestros, because as if he's mafkir something which is not his, so he will not be able to. The hefker, the maestros will still be obligated. Rabbi Yosef he says, "Commander Amar ein kinyan l'goy b'Eretz Yisrael l'potter v'no maestros," and yet this is like slightly different wording. This is like the one that says a guy can't exempt maestros, and the tvua is high maestros v'no Torah. But if he made it hefker, it is hefker. The hefker works. Even though he has no kach to be mafkir and kedusha and to exempt maestros, because he has a monetary acquisition, he has a kinyan mominus in this fruit, and therefore hefker is a valid hefker. And if he did make it hefker, it is potter from maestros. So according to this opinion, he's got the fruit. The fruit is definitely a kinyan for him, right? They ask. Let's say a guy hasn't got a kinyan in the land. The fruit is definitely his. Why can he not be mafkir it? His fruit. According to the first opinion, it's still chayv maestros. Why can he not be mafkir? So there's a question they ask. There are Moran who argue on this on Rabbi Yirmiyah. They say the fruits of a guy, he definitely can make it hefker. And according to that, that's the opinion now, we're saying that what? That even though he has no kinyan, but still, the hefker works. Even though he's got no kinyan in the land, he has a kinyan mominus, and he can make it hefker. But commander, according to the one who holds yesh kinyan l'goy b'Eretz Yisrael, if he has that ability to exempt maestros, and there's no chiyuv maestros min Torah, only rabbinically, then kal hekilu chachamim b'likutim, to leka chikhapeya of the grain of the produce of the guy, that there's no chiyuv. The chachamim did not put a chiyuv maestros on that. It's completely exempt from maestros, even if he didn't make it hefker. Not like we said in our Mishnah, it's chiyuv maestros if he didn't make it hefker. We're saying no. Since these things now, according to this opinion, really min Torah, there's no chiyuv maestros. So there's only a rabbinical one. And that might be a rabbinical chiyuv on maestros, but not on leket shikha. Yeah, they exempted that. They didn't put any chiyuv at all on leket shikha. Right? Maestros just about, but leket shikha they didn't bother. At least at leket shikha there's no chiyuv maestros on leket shikha. Rabbi Lazar now, even if he's got no kinyan in the land, as far as talking about maestros, but he's got that money in the fruit of his field, surely it's worth a mominus, his fruit is his. Surely he's got a kinyan on that. So he says, La doi tamat. The question of Lezer was not said on that, not on that gears of Rabbi Yossi name of Rabbi Yochanan, and on the following. Something else it was said. He says, when is there, when do we say hefker, the deal is potter, when he has a koyach to potter from maestros, but if he can't exempt from maestros, then even if it's hefker, there is a chiyuv maestros if he makes it hefker, because hefker doesn't work, and on that, alei Rebbe Lezer shayil, what do you mean he can't make it hefker? Does he not own that fruit? Right? He's got a mominus, he's got a monetary aspect in this fruit. Why can he not make it hefker to exempt maestros? Right? And that's where they asked the question, surely he has rights to the fruit. That's what it was asked upon. But on the words of Rabbi Yossi, there wasn't such a question. According to the Mishnah, it's talking about the one who holds the inkach, he has no kinyan to potter from maestros, but the hefker was just to exempt the peah from maestros. He's got kinyan nechasim, but that wasn't what the question was on. It was on this opinion, who said that ain't kinyan l'goy b'Eretz Yisrael. He has no koyach. So really hefker should be chayv b'maestros. So then he says, why should it be chayv maestros on peah? Surely he's got a mominous aspect to it. Rav Chanina, L'Shem Rav Pinchas, they said, Al Rabbi Yossi Makshi. He says, no, even Rabbi Yossi's version of events, they were asking on that. Rabbi Yossi B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Commander Amar, ain't kinyan l'goy b'Eretz Yisrael l'potter v'no maestros. You want to tell me hefker helps, and there's no chiyuv maestros, according to the one who says he hasn't got a koyach to pater, but commander Amar yesh kinyan l'goy b'Eretz Yisrael l'potter v'no maestros. If let's say he has that ability to exempt from maestros, yes, there will not be maestros, right? Min Torah is exempt. And the Chachamim were lenient with leket shikha peah. You hear that? He can exempt maestros. Min Torah, there's no chiyuv maestros, and with Rabbanon, maybe there is, but they were lenient with leket shikha peah. And on that, alei Rebbe Lezer shah, Rebbe Lezer says, ve'ein lo kinyan nechasim. Has he not got? He's got this fruit. It's his. So therefore, how can you tell me? Just like this. how can you tell me if he has no koyach in the fruit? You hear that? He's got no kinyan in the fruit. Sorry. Say it again. He's got no kinyan in the land. Okay, and the fruit is chayav ma'aser min atayra. That's what you want to tell me. Now, even if he has not got a right in the land, but he has a monetary aspect in this fruit. Why is there a chiyuv min atayra? That's what he's asking. Why is there a chiyuv min atayra on this fruit? It's all very well he hasn't got the land, but he has the fruit. So that's what he's asking now. Yeah. So we were varying the question. Are we asking about when it's Rabbanan and we're talking about Demai and the Likutin and the other things, or are we asking about where there is a chiyuv min atayra, or at least there's a chiyuv? We're saying that he hasn't got a kinyan. Has he not got kinyan nechasim? Why is there chiyuv ma'aser min atayra? So we're just varying what the question is as far as what we're asking. Which of the various points was he asking his question? The wording here, is it yesh kinyan? What's his wording exactly? Ve'ein lo kinyan nechasim. What does that sound like? Has he not got a right? Yeah, I know. So what are we asking again? So has he not got a right to the fruit? So therefore you would think, no, he's mafkia. You would think, that's what makes sense, he would be taking away. But you might tell me he's still obligated in the Torah. You might think he can't remove the Torah prohibition. So one way of learning is, hasn't he got a Torah aspect to the fruit? And the other way was saying, so we want to exempt. And we say, you know what? Really, the Torah obligation has gone away. There's a chiyuv and rabbanan of maser. But why is there a chiyuv and rabbanan of maser? You see, that's another way of looking at it. Why is there a chiyuv and rabbanan of maser? He's got rights to the fruit. Why can't he make it hefker if he wants? And the other way I was looking was, well, we were prepared to say, well, maser is okay, the rabbanan. All right, leket chikapea, we'll get away with that. That we won't have. Kilo chachamim b'lekutin. Right, that was the other thing we mentioned. If you're not mafkir it. So we said, but has he not got kinyan nechasim? Even if he's got no land, he's got at least money. He's got rights. Maybe I suppose even why is it so leket chikapea? We said, if he's mafkir it, there's no chiyuv ma'aser. So again, one of the questions was, even if he doesn't make a hefker, there shouldn't be a chiyuv ma'aser. No, but why? But is it not his? Is it not his? So why is there a chiyuv ma'aser? I mean, has he not got koyach in it that should stop it being chiyuv ma'aser? Maybe I think that's the different aspects of where the question's coming from. All right. Halacha zayin. Ezo leket. Now we're talking about this with leket now. Okay, leket kesecha leitelaket. You leave it for the poor. And we have, what is leket? Ezo leket, that you have to leave for the poor. Hanosha b'shas kesira. That, one or two stalks that fall at the time of the harvest. They fall from the kotzer onto the ground. Haya kotzer. Now if he's cutting. The kotzer malay yado. And he gets a whole handful with his scythe. Or talash malay kumso. He detaches with his hand a whole fistful of crop. And while he's holding it, he kohukites. He got hit by a thorn of some kind. And because of the pain, he moved his hand, the nafal, and some of it fell, one stalk or two, miyad al-aretz, to the ground. This goes to the balabais. This is not a din leket. You don't have to leave it for the poor, because the falling is because of inus. It's because he hurts his hand. That's why he dropped it. Now, what is leket? What isn't leket? Now, the stalks that you cut, taich hayad, the taich hamagal. Now, what they used to do, they would hold the standing crop at the time when they're reaping with their left hand, and they would wave the scythe to cut it with their right hand. Okay? Now, that which would fall from that which he's holding in his hand, and because of the crop where he's waving across the scythe, la'aniyim, that is for the poor. If it drops down at that stage when you let go and it just drops to the floor, that goes to the poor. That's leket. Acha hayad, but acha hamagal. Now, if they were, sometimes he says here in the notes, you cut when you sort of go backwards, like on the outer side of the scythe, not on the inner sharp side. And it might cut a bit on the outer side of the hand, outer side of your hand, outer side of the scythe. right? This is acha hayad, acha hamagul. It's not the way of cutting. So anything that falls there has not got a din leket. Okay? That's how Rav Sirilio explains it. So acha hayad, acha hamagul, and they fall on the ground, the balabais, then they go to the owner. That's not called leket. They didn't fall the way of cutting. If it was roish hayad, but roish hamagul, now here they say what falls from the edge of your hand. It means that you're touching them with the tips of your fingers. You hear that? So they're just about in your hand, but they're virtually not in your hand. You see, they're right at the edge of your fingers. And they fall, machlokas. Yerushalmi Peah Daf goes to the poor. He says, no, you get to keep it. So you've got hives in the ground where there's crops which the mice or whatever have taken away, or the rats, whatever it is, from the field into these little nests. So the din is, maybe ants or whatever it is. Ants and hives, whatever it is. If they are in a place which is still connected to the ground, which the reapers haven't got to, that definitely it fell from this which is connected to the ground. It's not leket. Leket is what falls at the time of the harvest. If these holes are found in a place which has already been cut, and you find types of grain, and yonim, the top ones in the holes, alanim, go to the poor, because that came from leket. But the bottom ones of the hives, the balabais, they go to the owner, because it was probably brought from that which was still connected to the ground, and that's not gone to the leket. Rameh says hakol anim. Everything goes to the poor. Why? Shesafik leket. You've got a doubt about leket, he's got a din like leket. Any doubt? So the bottom ones in the grain, again, it maybe it came from leket, we don't know for sure. Safik leket, you have to be strict. Okay. Not everyone who detaches produce with his hand is the din of leket. Katsiricha, right? Is you're cutting it normally with the side. And similarly with the chiyuv of peret, with the grapes, if one little grape falls, one or two grapes at the time of the cutting, then you leave them for the poor. But peret kamacha, lo haperet biyado. There's no din peret unless you do it the normal way with a vessel, and not if you detach it with your hand. We said if it's inside the side, inside your hand goes to the paw, and if it's on the outer side, then it goes to the balabais. One said, right? So what does that mean? It's not leket unless they fall from produce which is within your hand, within the left hand of the person holding the crop, and within the scythe, which he cuts them, right, with the scythe. So it's in his hand and he cuts them. But if, however, that which fell was within his hand, but not within the scythe, maybe only cut part of that amount, right? He's holding a big bunch, and the scythe only cut half of it. In such a case, or the other way around, it was within the scythe, but it wasn't within his hand. That's not leket. That's what one opinion says. It's got to be within both. The other one said, when it says it's going to be, even if it's in one of the two, either in your hand or in the scythe, is leket. It doesn't need to be in both. Right? As long as it's in one of them, that's good enough, that's leket. Only if it's, let's say, la'achayad, right? It's behind your hand, whatever, then it's not leket. So one opinion therefore says it's got to be within both, and one says it's got to be within one of them. The food that you find in the ant holes goes to the balabais. So the other opinion says it depends on the top one or the bottom bit. Now, what is the border between the top crumbs and the bottom crumbs? How do we know what's called top and what's called bottom? The top ones go to the poor, but levanim, while with clusters which are whitish, like produce, which is ripe and ready to cut, and it sort of dries out and it becomes bright. And that must have fallen at the time of the harvest, and that's got a din of leket. And the lower ones goes to the balabais, but yerukim, they're greenish, right? Therefore they were like unripened. They'd not yet reached their time to be cut. So they came from what was still growing. You see, so we can tell by the colour. So they don't have a din of leket.
I've been to field where they cut wheat for matzahs, and it's completely dry by the time.
Yeah. They leave it for months. And Shmuel continues, brings Rameh. Everything goes to the poor. Shesafik leket. The reason is she after lego and loves this below Yerukim. That you cannot end up, even in produce which is ripe, ready to be cut, you're always going to have some greenish bits as well. Because it's not all the same. Therefore, even the gargim which are green, it could be they came at the time of ripening, at the time of the cutting. And so it's a suffix that might be leket, therefore he said everything has to be treated as leket. Amar Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan said, our Mishnah we said suffix leket is nanir, is Rabbi Yehuda ben Chakrahi, it's his view. The Tani who led, Gersh and his guy ba'isa kama, a ger. So he becomes a ger, he's got produce still connected to the ground. Nixara chaloi nizla, if it was cut before he became a ger, pasul. He doesn't have to have leket shikhaper. The chiyuv is the time of katsira, he was still a guy, and he's not chayav matos anim. Mishin is gaya, if he got cut after he became a ger, chayav. Is chayav leket shikhaper. In Suffolk, if we don't know, was it cut before he became a ger or afterwards? Patul. He's part of a matas anim, it's a Suffolk moment. You want to take money away from your friend, you need to bring a proof. So we don't know when it was cut, so he's pasul. Rabbi Yehuda ben Chagra argued. He said, you are chayav even in a case of doubt. So according to the view of Rabbi Yehuda ben Chagra, Safek leket shikha peah is going to the poor. Our Mishnah is like the view of Rabbi Yehuda ben Chagra, that Safek leket is leket. However, according to the Chachamim, Safek leket, you don't have to leave it for the poor. Now, that's one way of looking at it. But our Mishnah is like the view, Rabbi Yochanan said, our Mishnah holds Safek leket is la'anim, like this Rabbi Yehuda ben Chagra. Now, Rish Lakish argues, he says you could fit in the Mishnah even according to the Chachamim who argue on it. But Shimon Lakish, he says, Dibra Akali. Everyone can agree with our Mishnah. That even according to the Chachamim, Safek leket goes to the poor. Now, it's not the same as a ger in this guy, Safek, when was it cut? Before Geras, after Geras. And therefore, why? According to them, he's part of Matanas Yomiyah. Why? Because Israel, She'ikra Chayav, he has the main mitzvah of Chiyuv leket, when there's no doubt. So Tzveikai, the Chazaka is Chayav, right? So Tzveikai, you have a doubt, Chayav. You have Safek, is this leket or not? We say Chayav. The guy, She'ikra Patel, but a guy you would think he's Patel from leket She'ikra. Now he went through Geras. When did he go through Geras? Was it before? Was it after? He's Patel. The Chazaka tells you Ikra is Patel. But now he became a ger, I'll say Sveika is Patel. Now you've got doubt, I'll say Patel. Because in the beginning he was Patel of mitzvah. Now you have a suffix, maybe there's a new chiyuv, I say no, there's no chiyuv. Now the two Amoraim, Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, they explain now the Lashon of our Mishnah, each one according to his way. And the Mishnah says, Rameh Omer, Hakol Aliyim, Safek leket leket. That's what he said. Rameh said, everything goes to the poor, Safek leket is leket. And it sounds like everyone agrees with it. And then Rameh says, yeah, even the lower bits at the bottom of the hive, Safek leket. Now that's like Rish Lakish. Right? Everyone agrees Safek leket goes to the poor. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's not everyone agrees to it, it's machlokes Tanaim. So Rabbi Yochanan has to explain the Mishnah according to his reasoning. Rabbi Yochanan said, Kach haya Rameh Meishiv is Rabbi Yochanan. Rameh said that, and he would answer back to Rabbi Yehuda ben Chagra, who held Safek leket shikha peah goes to the poor. He says, Einat moidali, Safek leket leket. Now the Lashon Safek leket, he's saying, even if you argue in the din of these bottom crumbs, the people agree, but that was only Rabbi Yehuda ben Chagra, and on that, Rameh said, since you agree with me, like Safek leket, he's got a din of leket, goes to the poor, so you should agree with these lower crumbs that they belong to the poor. Because they are Safek leket. That's what he's telling him. You should treat these lower crumbs as Safek leket. Because the Chachamim, however, they argue Rabbi Yehuda ben Chagra with Safek leket. Rameh never said this to them. Because they wouldn't agree. Basically, Rameh is not saying everyone's view. He's saying to Rabbi Yehuda ben Chagra, you should agree with me with this. You follow? The Chachamim don't agree. The Chachamim said Safek leket is not leket. But at least you, Rameh, you should agree, just like Safek leket, so anything in the bottom of this hive should be considered leket. That's what Rameh says. Okay. Now, Rish Lakish, however, learns it kipshuta, that everyone agrees. Safek leket is leket. Rish Lakish, he says, no. This is how Rameh told the Chachamim. All the Chachamim who argued about the lower crumbs in the hive, even those who argued even those who argue on Rida ben Chagrov with Safik Leket, right, with the Ger, they might argue with the Ger. But he says, Einatem Waidimli, do you not agree, Shasafik Leket Leket? According to everyone says that now. According to this view of the Chacham Shokish, everyone holds Safik Leket is Leket. Everyone holds of this. Right? So why don't you say that the bottom crumbs are Leket as well? Now, the Gemara brings various sources from droshes for this din of Safik Leket is Leket. You have a doubt, is Leket. Let's see. How do we know? It's not like other monetary doubts. It's not like that. The Balabais is Muhsuk in Leket. The Adi comes to take it away, and we say the Adi keeps it. Why is that? He says, Ani v'rosh hasdiku, it says in the pasuk. Now, you're sort of justifying the poor. Now, it can't be a based in, being mezakeh the poor when it's not right. It's a din Torah. It can't be. If the rich man is right, then that's it. You can't start changing justice, right? You have to do a true justice. And it says, V'dal loitad abariva. So it says, hasdiku b'matanosav. If you have a doubt, if you have to give an ani various gifts of the poor, then make sure your doubt bends your doubt to be generous to the poor. That's why it is. And that's where we see the Safik Leket is Leket. And the same thing with other Matanos on him. He says, again, don't bend justice of the poor man. Right? Don't bend the justice out of mercy for the sake of the poor. And the Lashon Berivai, we're learning as far as Rivai as well, the din Torah between a person and others. But anything else, of course, you do it. You can't justice. You can't bend. But for the sake of matanas avyanim, whatever, you can be machriya the suffix for the sake of the poor man. But riva eilat mateo. In an argument, you can't start bending it for the good. And mateo is matanosav. You can do it when it comes to the gifts to the poor, like leket. Then you should bend it. If you have a doubt, give it to the poor. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Ma zakahi v'ma shoshana lanu Rabbi." How clear is the drasha of what Rabbi taught? It says leket and peah. We should leave them. The extra word tazayv. Hanach lifneim vishalcha. He says, give it to the poor of your own. What does that mean? Safik martelis anim. You go back. You give up your share and give it to the poor. Be machmeh out of doubt, right? And that pasuk is talking about leket and peah. And now he's going to tell me Shikha has got the same din. And we bring a source. You see, this is lager, la yosem, la mona yeh. It goes for the ger, for the poor, for the widow. The word yeh is extra. It is telling me, whether it's yours or his or honey, give it to the poor. So even with Safek Shikha, when you've got, it might be yours, nevertheless you should be strict and give it to the poor. I think we will stop here today.